Hello again, everybody. Today we are at the dam and we are cooking out a little bit. We figured we'd enjoy the pretty day and cook out. We got some sun too, and not continuous sun. We have clouds and stuff like that, but I figured this would be a good time to show y'all the solar system on Zephyr and go into some detail about it. I know a few people have been asking me to do a detailed video on how I did the solar. I know a few people were curious because they wanted to do solar on their rig, so you know they were wondering how I did mine. Alright, for those of you who do not know, this is Zephyr. This is my schoolie that I built, and I have on the roof 600 watts of solar panels. Each solar panel is 100 watts. Okay, each of these panels is 100 watts. They're all Renogy panels. They're all the same. The way I have these hooked up is they are in what you call a series parallel configuration. And what it is, these, I believe anyway, these three are hooked in series, which means this panel is, the positive of this panel is hooked to the negative on this panel. Positive on this panel is hooked to the negative on this panel. Positive on that one and the negative on that one are both ran into the combiner box. Same with this one. These three are hooked in series, and then they go into parallel with the other. I'll put up a diagram showing you how this is all hooked up and how they go in together. One more thing, on a school bus you have the sloped roof like this. Now I have seen people put their panels, like they'll put a couple on this side facing this way, maybe one facing up, and then over here. The problem you get with that, the angle toward the sun makes a difference in your efficiency. I made this whole array tilts, and I have it on a toggle switch, and I can tilt the whole array up. Now you can see the sun is at, well, it went behind a cloud, but the sun is right there, so it's coming at an angle. So really, we are not set up for the best efficiency to catch the sunlight. To get the best efficiency, you'll want to tilt the panels. So let me show you how I do that. Okay, now so that I can drive down the road with the panels down and not have to worry about them blowing off, I have on this side, these are truck hood latches, like on a big truck. There's two of them. And okay, on the other side over here, we have hinges that are welded to this rack that I built. Now, the reason I've got the hinges here is because it tilts up this way. And you can see that when I flip this switch. You got this one right there, and this one right there. And then in here, you got this switch. Flip this switch up, and they start going up. And out here you can see the whole set moves at once, and it's on a homemade linear actuator. Okay, so once you get it up like that, you're at a better angle to the sun, and it's a lot more efficient. You get a lot more solar out of it. So up here you can see our combiner box. Okay, so this is my combiner box. Now you can get one that is actually made specifically for running solar into an RV. This one is actually from the hardware store. Any electricians knows what this is. It's actually an electrical, they call it an LB, or it's called a line box. And what this is is this part goes through your wall into your house, and when you pull your wire up, it goes through here, and you don't make any connections in here, supposedly on my main service wire. This is just a through box, and it's a way to get the wire pulled through, because it would never go through this angle. But for our application, it works great because it's waterproof, and I can angle this part down so that as the wires come in, they are free to go inside, but the water cannot come in. It has to run down this way. So all of our circuit from our panels are supposed to be inside of this stuff, but they've kind of come out. Anyway, you can see we have two circuits here of wire from the panels. There's 1, 2, and there's another wire inside there. 3, 4. So our 4 wires coming from our panels, going down and going into here. And what they do is they all connect. The positives connect to the positives, and the negatives connect to the negatives, and it goes into a service wire, which is bigger. Now this wire here, that goes to my backup camera. That is something not related. This is for the linear actuator. It goes across the roof over to our linear actuator. I can show you a few details about that. Alright, so under here you can see a little more detail of the framing. This metal frame goes across here, and that is just frames that I just kind of welded up and put together. This hooks to this connection point. I just welded 2 tabs on there, drilled a hole through. This is actually a trailer jack. Like I said, this is my homemade linear actuator. It's very powerful. It is run by a drill. You can see the drill chuck here. You can even see the clutch. I took the drill part off and just slipped a piece of pipe over it, and I siliconed it up so it would be waterproof. I did leave the end open, the end that faces down. Water can't come up into it, but it can run out. So that way it keeps water from coming down into the motor itself. Which there shouldn't be any water coming down because of the panel right on top of it. But anyway, I wanted to make it as waterproof as I could. I just welded 2 pieces of metal, 1 on each side, and I have this all welded up so that it's holding everything securely. And then it goes down into another couple of tabs here. Actually, this is the this was the foot of the jack that was on that end. I just welded it to this top here. It's the benefit of having a metal roof. But you can see here is the wire. It just kind of lays across there. It's not beautiful under here. In fact, I probably should have raised this up when I painted Zephyr, but I don't know, I just didn't. Doesn't really matter. But you can see how I framed it up, and I basically leveled the top so that you're not working with the slope, because I wanted all my panels at the same angle. Now let's go inside. Okay, so our 2 wires, well, you can't really see, but the 2 wires come down through the electrical LB out here, come down, and the negative goes straight. You can see here's the charge controller. The negative goes straight into the negative on the charge controller. The positive, it actually comes into this fuse, and it's a 40 amp fuse. You can see the 40 amp on it. And then it comes into the positive side of the charge controller. Now the charge controller is what takes the power coming from the solar panels, and it converts it to a usable charging voltage, because you can see the voltage coming in right now. We're getting like only 7 amps or something like that, but that's because the battery is almost full. So everything in here is running, but the battery is full, so you're not pulling in very much. But you can see the voltage is 30, 37, 38 volts coming in from the panels. And you can't hook 38 volts directly to a 12 volt battery, or you'll ruin the battery. So what this does, it is an MPPT charge controller, and it takes the power that's coming from the solar panels and it adjusts it to the voltage and amperage that you need to charge your batteries. So you can see the batteries are charging. After the charge controller, and after it does its magic, you have your power come out going to the battery. Now the battery is where you store all of your power. So you got your positive and negative coming out. They go back into here and they go down. The negative is grounded up here in the power distribution center. The positive coming from the charge controller is this wire right here. And this goes directly to your batteries. Now this wire right here goes up to the alternator on the engine, so that when this is a keyed, this wire right here gets power from the key switch. As soon as you turn the key switch on, this relay kicks in and it turns on 12 volts from your alternator into the system, so that you can use your vehicle's alternator to charge the battery. So you're not fully dependent on the solar. You can also charge the battery with the engine of the bus. And that runs down under the bus to this box right here. As you can see, the cushion goes away and then the lid goes away. This is just one of my batteries. There are two more back in there, but they are all sealed up. These are lead acid batteries, so you don't want them just directly venting out into the bus. So this one, there's actually some holes kind of under it that let it vent outside, so you're not venting the fumes from the battery straight into the bus. And there's also room for one more here. I even have an extra terminal ready for when I get it. Still need to get a positive, but you can see this is the wire coming from that relay, coming from the charge controller basically, and it goes into here, and then that goes on to our other batteries. There's two more just like this, the same batteries under there. Now we're not going to take all that off because that's kind of hard to get to, but I will show you the charge controller. So your positive and negative from your batteries come into your inverter, and you will want to run that through a fuse that is has also sealed in with the batteries. But here is the charge controller. It is a 2000 watt charge controller, and you can see it is plugged in right now right here. That plug goes up to here, and this is how you can switch from shore power to the inverter. Actually, it's hooked, the power inverter is hooked to this breaker, and when you have this on, then your plugs and your microwave and air conditioner will work from the solar power from your inverter. Now if you are at a campground and you want to use, the refrigerator's running right now, so I'm not going to switch it over. There's no shore power, we're just sitting here. But if you want to switch over to shore power, all you do is you turn this one off, flip this up, and then turn this one back on, and then you're on shore power. This ensures that you cannot have both these breakers on at the same time, because if you were to plug into shore power and flip this switch on with the inverter turned on and this in the on position, you will smoke that inverter right away, like instantly. And we don't want that. Okay, so this is the diagram that I've made up to show how my solar system is set up. You can see here the solar panels hooked in series parallel into the combiner box. Goes from the combiner box down into the bus through a fuse into the charge controller. Of course, comes out of the charge controller through another fuse down to the relay. I didn't show the fuse in the video, but it's there. Now from the relay it comes back over to the batteries, and from the batteries into the inverter. And once again, there is a fuse there. I didn't even show this in the diagram, but I talked about it in the video. But anyway, now after you get to your inverter, you have 120 volts, which goes to the breaker box. And that's the AC side. On the DC side, you can see the wire coming off of the batteries up to the fuse panel, and that goes into my distribution box for the bus. And this of course goes to all of the other accessories like the lights and everything else. Now you can see the wire coming from the relay going to the alternator, and that is so we can charge our batteries while the engine is running in the bus. So that is pretty much an overview of the entire solar system on Zephyr. I guess that's the whole video on the solar power system. Now if you are hooking up a solar power system, I'm going to go into detail onto how everything, or the whole process of hooking everything up on the house, because on my tiny house I'm going to put a pretty large solar system on it. So I want to go through in detail, and it'll probably be several videos showing how to wire up solar. The last step that you want to do is to hook your panels up. Now you can mount your panels, have the wire run hooked into everything except for wait to put that last fuse in the run from the solar panels down to the charge controller. Wait until you have your batteries hooked up first. Then put your fuse in for your solar panels, because if you don't, then you overload your charge controller. Or you could. It may not happen. It may be fine, but I wouldn't take the chance. Best thing to do, hook up your batteries first. Then last thing, right when you're wanting to turn the power on to the whole system, you put that last fuse in for the panels. Anyway, I guess that's going to be about it for this video. If y'all have any more questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll get to them just as soon as I can. I appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see y'all on the next one.